not just because it's super fun to say. It is also a gorgeously simple, like we're talking ready in 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even faster, depending on how little I speak and how quickly I chop. Chicken breasts bathed in silky, creamy, wine-based sauce with lots of butter and a little bit of fresh herb and some mushrooms. It's fabulous. And you can serve it. I'm not going to show you today because I'm focusing on the Marsala, but you can serve it over noodles, rice, cauliflower rice. You could take your buttery, creamy wine sauce and put it over cauliflower rice. Balance. Let's talk about chicken breast. I'm going to do 2 breasts today. I will be slicing them into medallions, so I'll try to get 3 to 4 out of each of them. Chicken breast per person roughly, but just make them evenly sized so they cook evenly. I'm just gonna slice them sort of like so, and if your chicken has big pieces of, little sort of fatty gristle left on it like this, just go ahead and trim those off, not a big deal. Roughly inch thick, beautiful little medallions like this. And you can unfurl them and see how they're looking. If you find that you need to flatten a piece like this one, for instance, here's what you're gonna do. If you don't have a meat tenderizer, which it turns out I don't, surprising to me. I thought I had what I needed in this kitchen, but I don't. Just tuck it into a little bag or between 2 pieces of plastic wrap. And this is also nice to keep anything from splattering around your kitchen. And just bippity boppity boo. And miraculously you have a lovely, evenly thick medallion to go with the rest of your evenly thick medallions. This guy could use a little hammering. Hammer time. Ooh. I might like this method better than the traditional hammer time. I'll tell you why. Sometimes you don't know your own strength with the hammer, and then you make it like papery thin, and it's less than ideal. Or you tear the flesh or any of that. This is a very even, uniform thumping. Washing of the hands one more time. Now it's time for the breading of your chicken. So I have just some all-purpose flour here. I'm going to shake that onto a shallow bowl or plate. And you want to make sure to season your chicken and the breading, topping, whatever, because it all goes to contributing to maximum flavor in this dish. It's a really simple combination of chicken, butter, mushrooms, some fresh herbs. So you definitely want to make sure the flavors come through loud and clear. Season high enough that you're getting a nice scattering of your seasoning from on high, so you don't get like accidental dumps of pepper in one little place and no seasoning elsewhere. Just mix together that salt and pepper into the flour, and then grab your little medallions of chicken breast and toss them in. We're just looking for a really light coating of flour. All this really does is a couple different things. It builds flavor together with the melting butter that will be happening in our pan. It does help the chicken get a gorgeous golden brown, slight crusting. We're not talking like a majorly fried chicken moment here, but it does definitely give it just a little bit of breading for the fat and the flavor to hold on to, which in my book is definitely a good thing. I'll continue on with these, but let's go ahead and get this first batch started. Walk on over to the hot stove. You could do this entirely in melted butter, but the only issue there is that the butter can have a tendency to burn a little bit faster than oil because of the milk content, the milk solids in this beautiful dairy glory. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of oil, and that will help to make it a little less likely that the butter is going to burn while still giving us some gorgeous color and that wonderful nutty caramelized flavor of the butter. Grab your chicken and come and see the butter melting. I don't know why this is always going to be one of the most gratifying moments for me in the kitchen as the swirls of melting lactic love get situated into the golden bath of olive oil. I like to work with a nice wide shallow pan for this dish because you are at various points in the cooking process going to want liquid to be evaporating, and having more surface area for that to happen is always a good move. It also widens the surface area for me to put the chicken down so it's not clustered on top of each other. We don't want steaming, we want golden brown crusting. So yeah, shallow pan. Going in with just give your chicken a quick light shake and then lay it away, because if it drops or accidentally splatters, you want that splattering in a direction away from yourself. After I get everything in here, I might drop the heat to just a medium high instead of a straight up high because I don't want it to burn too quickly. And these, because it's just smaller pieces of chicken breast, there's not a lot of connective tissue, these are going to cook up fast, like 2 to 3 minutes on this side. Flip it, do it again. let's go through the rest of these medallions. Lovely. Keep you guys together. I just want you to see what's happening in the pan and just give it a little swirl now and then. Nothing will be sticking to the bottom, but I just like doing it. And I also think that it helps to make sure that there's plenty of oil and butter bathing the underside of each of these pieces. New board, new knife. You can definitely use rosemary in this dish. I'm gonna have some parsley going in at the end, but I love adding a few little herbaceous flecks of this. Thyme is just such a universal herb for me. It goes with lemons beautifully. It has like a nice kind of slight pepperiness, slight citrusiness. It's super mild in its flavor, but does add a little something. So definitely worth giving it a try here. And honestly, anytime I'm using mushrooms, I am tempted to throw thyme in because they're best friends. They're just absolutely best friends since preschool, like forever. So you can see, first of all, the butter is foaming, which is beautiful and giving us lots of yummy flavor. Let's flip these bad boys over. Golden brown, yummy, yummy, yummy. Oh, these guys are ready. These guys could use a little bit longer. Back over, no problems with here. No worries. Okay, I have this gorgeous thyme. Maybe I'm gonna get like 2 teaspoons worth. And I think that should be good since we're doing 2 chicken breasts. Even though I think I did a pretty good job getting most of the stems out, I am gonna just give it a really quick little rough chop because you don't want anything getting in the way of this sauce being super velvety, smooth, luscious delightfulness. We're just aiming for golden brown right now. The chicken will have a chance to rest while we make the mushroom sauce, and then we're gonna actually cook it again in the sauce for like another minute, maybe a minute and a half. So it will have a chance to completely finish cooking all the way through. Let's go ahead and get our mushrooms ready to go. So I would say most traditional recipes use button mushrooms, brown mushrooms like these, which are lovely. I love all mushrooms. I love mushrooms. However, these guys feel like they have the most water to me and the least flavor overall, as opposed to something like a shiitake that has, well, here so you can see a whole one, that just has so much umami built into it. It layers so much flavor into the sauce. Again, when you're working with really limited ingredients and very simple preparation, having every element bring a bunch of flavor with it makes for a very fun party. So what I'm gonna do is I've already wiped these mushrooms off. You don't wanna submerge your mushrooms in water because they will soak in some of that water and then it actually dilutes their flavor even more. So just take a damp cloth and rub it over the surface, dislodge any dirt. You can trim off the bottoms of the stems, and then I just like to leave them in halves. These are nice, relatively petite mushrooms. You can quarter them if they feel like they're getting too big. Maybe let's do quarters. Let me pull this first batch of chicken out. Excuse me. Removing my chicken out. It's still lovely and tender. And just because this butter is getting quite golden and brown, I am going to add a splash more oil. It's not burnt, it's just, we're not gonna lose that flavor. Look at this, we're gonna use that to build our gorgeous sauce. But I am gonna add a splash more oil here. And just another tablespoon and another tablespoon of butter. And then in with our last chicken breast. Lovely. The flour, I should also add, does a really nice job of very, very minimally helping to thicken the sauce up because it just adds that little bit of a thickening component. So you're getting golden brown crust and thickness from one little dredge in the flour. Working my way through, I'm gonna call it, let's do a cup of button mushrooms and then a cup of the shiitakes. And you definitely can adjust based on how mushroomy you like the sauce. I said I love mushrooms. So I might add a few more than you and your family would like to have, but that is the beauty of cooking at home. You can personalize to your little heart's desire. The same thing with the shiitakes. You know, the shiitake stems have tons of flavor, but they have a little bit more of like a woody texture to them. So I just pull the stems off and reserve those for mushroom stalks, veggie stalks of any kind. Now these I could leave whole because they're so pretty and they're not that big. Or you can chop them up and kind of make like a pretty mushroom medley. I'll do both. The nice ones I will leave whole, like this little guy and these guys, and then the bigger ones I will chop up quickly. Just in four, just like our buttons. Will not sing. Perfect. So the second batch of chicken is done. I'm going to take it off the heat, pull these out onto the same plate to rest. Then we will continue building our mushroom sauce. Into that hot, hot oil, we are going with our mountain of mushrooms. And we're going to hear a gorgeous sizzling happening quickly. So yeah, this is easily 3 cups of mushrooms at this point. Because remember when I said I was doing a cup of each, I probably did a cup and a half, maybe more. Here's the problem. You definitely want your mushrooms to have room to breathe. You don't want them to be all like layered on top, because then as the steam does, like I said, mushrooms have a lot of water content. As that steam starts to evaporate up and off with the heat contact, you don't want it to be trapped by mushrooms on top that then steam. So I will be restrained and not use you. So see what I'm doing here? I'm relaxing. I'm not doing more than I need to. I'm not messing around with this. What we need to have happen here is immediate golden brown crusting on the surface of the mushrooms that touch down first. So in like a minute, I will go in and flip them all and let that happen again. But at the outset, you might be tempted to get in there, start mixing things around. Don't be. Let the heat and the butter do its business. And we can get to work on some garlic. For this dish, you don't want it to be overwhelming garlic, but enough to scent properly, like any Italian rooted dish should have in it. So I'm going to do 3 cloves because these are not enormous. And you can definitely grate these. You can press them through your press, but I have my knife dirty and kind of like the texture of a chopped piece of garlic in this dish, especially because given that it's going to be cooking for a little bit, I don't want it to burn. And the smaller your pieces of garlic, the easier they are, the more delicate they are, the easier they will burn. So see how much of the liquid has evaporated already? There's very little happening there, but you can see all the steam coming off. Can you see? So give them a quick toss and look at how much golden brown coating has already happened just on the sides that were allowed to stick around in that hot butter. If it looks like it's a little bit dry, just a tiny bit, I'm gonna add, a half a tablespoon max of butter into both sides just to keep it juicy. Oh, the sauce is gonna be so good, so good. And then just work your way through the garlic, a quick little chop. Once it's all roughly even, we're good to go. Now it's time to salt the mushrooms to bring out that second dose of water. So they released the water that was most willing to come out before. Now the salt's going to help do it again. And I'm going to drop the heat down to a low, add in our 3 cloves of garlic, plus our beautiful thyme. 2 teaspoons of thyme. Look at that. If that does not look like flavor waiting to happen, I don't know what to tell you. Try not to get steaming hot mushrooms on yourself. That's not fun. Give these a little toss. It's only over a low heat right now because we don't need to cook anything else right this second. We just need to lightly toast that garlic, soften it, wilt it down, toast the herbs, let them coat that mushroom base. I'm going to give our shallot a gorgeous mincing because again, with a silky smooth, beautiful sauce, you don't want anything that's going to get in the way of that sublime experience. So take your time here, practice your knife skills, go ahead and make beautiful, even little cuts. And these can go right into the pot along with our onions and garlic and everything else delicious. Now for the fun part. It ain't called chicken marsala for nothing. Marsala wine is a fortified wine, which means it has a bit of distilled alcohol put into wine. So in this case, brandy usually. It can have a different flavor profile, but for the most part, as it reduces, it adds a really rich and nutty flavor to the sauce. The one that I got happens to have a little bit of sweetness to it, so it's also going to give that nice sweet hit to the savory profile. If you're feeling up to it, you can flambe at this point. And if you don't have Marsala wine, you can definitely use white wine. And maybe just add like a tiny pinch of sugar. And it will be a very delicious sauce, but it won't be Marsala chicken. So at this point, I want to make the heat a medium. This wine is helping to deglaze the pan, which means lifting off any of that wonderful brown caramelization that got stuck to the pan as everything was cooking. So all that flavor comes up into the sauce. I'm also going to add, and you can add water instead if you want to. In fact, if you wanted to keep this dish non-alcoholic, although all the alcohol is going to reduce here, so we're really not worried about the alcohol content. But you could definitely do a cup of chicken broth, which I'm doing here, and a cup of apple cider. So fall perfect. Cup of water. Bring this up to a high. We want the sauce to gorgeously reduce at this point by at least half before I add the butter in. Apparently, I've been learning a lot about Marsala. You can actually sip good Marsalas. You can sip as like an aperitif or a digestif. Just have a little bit of a sweet, slightly acidic end or beginning to a meal. And I like that. There's something about this meal that makes me feel so 60s. I cannot explain it. So the idea of having a cocktail before and after dinner feels apropos. So go ahead and try some Marsala. Let's taste how we're doing here. It's just so we know that we're on track. I haven't added the butter yet. Oh my gosh. That tastes just like French onion soup. I want to drink that. I want to bathe in that. I want to drink it. I love you. It's been cooking like 10 minutes. Maybe I'm going to go 1 minute more of reduction and then time for some butter and time for the chicken. Let's chop parsley. And we just want to put a really lovely tight mince on here so that it scatters beautifully through the sauce. Oh, it's time to add some more butter to the pan. Let's start with 3 tablespoons. Let's start with 2 tablespoons. You can always add more. Gorgeous and creamy. The sauce is lightening. Okay, I was right. We need 3 tablespoons. So at this point, let's add our chicken back in, along with its juices, anything that's run off the chicken as it's been sitting. Give it a little swirl to make sure they all have their own nice little spot in the bath. And then we're just gonna cook to heat the chicken up another 60 seconds. Taste the sauce one more time for good measure. Can't stop, won't stop, it's so good. Please look at this. It is rich and thick. Let me give it a quick toss just to make sure everything is getting lovely and coated in here. Turn off the heat. We've made it. She's ready. Grab your parsley, a little, half here and then half at the end just to garnish. Give that a quick toss so you can see. And then onto our serving platter. A little bit more fresh parsley, just a touch. It's got a really nice salt on there already, but you can always add just a touch of flaky salt. And that, my friends, is gorgeous chicken marsala with shiitake and button mushrooms. I gotta try it. I just gotta try it. Grab a lovely little medallion. And actually, you do need a spoon to serve up some of this gorgeous sauce. Please look at this. Please look at how fancy this is. I can't stand it. No, it's just an easy family supper that you made in 20 minutes. Okay, little mushroom on top, little juicy chicken breast, little tasting moment. Let's see how juicy this, oh yes, check it out. And it still has a beautiful crust on it from that first dredge with the flour and bath in the butter. I almost have no words, but I have words. The mushrooms here, guys, are meaty and so flavorful. They bring all that umami punch. The chicken is juicy. The sauce is so velvety and rich with that little bit of the wine undertone. No alcohol taste here. It's really just that like fruity nuttiness that comes through when the wine is reduced. A little bit of freshness from our herbs, garlic and shallot. I don't know what else you could possibly want to eat for dinner tonight than this gorgeous, gorgeously easy chicken marsala.